Hello, and welcome to the Senior Spotlight. I'm Mary Cordova with Concierge Care Advisors. This is Senior Spotlight number 20, and I am so excited to be here. We are here with Tracy Cram Perkins. She's a dementia care specialist. She also is an author, and she's going to share a lot of information about caregiving today and also dementia and how to survive, basically taking care of a loved one. So we are so excited to meet you, Tracy. I personally have not met you, but some of my team members have down in the South Pierce County when you were presenting at, I believe, the Healthcare Provider Network meeting. So thank you so much for coming to the Senior Spotlight. We really appreciate it.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for having me and inviting me on the program.
Absolutely. Well, you and I share a passion I will have to share with you. I ran a 60-bed dementia community in Linwood, Washington. That's now called Brookdale Alderwood.
Okay.
And I also had my husband's father lived with us the last 3 years of his journey. And his recall was less than 4 seconds, I would think. And the only thing that he could do was feed himself. So my husband had a huge job, went through the caregiver stress, lost tons of weight, and have health issues because of it. So grateful to have you here and talk about, the holistic approach, the revitalizing of the person giving the care, and all of those things. So I would love to know a little bit about your passion, why you wrote the book, and we'll start from there.
Okay. Well, I am a four-time dementia caregiving survivor.
Oh my
I cared
gosh.
for my mom, dad, aunt, and uncle,
Oh my
and
gosh.
everyone was completely different.
Yes.
And so, as the journey was progressing, we ended up rescuing my dad from the system. He actually had a diabetic coma, and we
Oh.
didn't have the right powers of attorney, so that
Mm.
when he was in the hospital and we tried to take him home with us, they wouldn't release him to my care because I did not have the correct power of attorney. So it became very important to me to make sure that other caregivers don't go through what my family and I did,
Wonderful.
because it took
Yeah.
us 5 minutes or 5 minutes, five
5 months.
months to rescue him.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And he had to wait in the hospital for you to do that?
No, he went through a series of care facilities,
Mm.
starting with a group home where he was the only person that was ambulatory. So he's the only one that could walk around, and he
Oh.
wanted to go for walks, and everyone else was bedridden. And
Oh,
so
not a good
every time
mix.
it,
No.
it did not go well. He
Yeah.
ended up getting kicked out of
Oh.
five care facilities and kept getting
No.
sent to more secure facilities. So,
Oh.
yeah, it was not a good plan for him.
Right, right.
Mhm.
What caused that anxiety for him to want to elope or want to, go? What was that? Do you know?
Oh, absolutely. He wanted to exercise.
Yeah.
He used to walk every single day,
Oh.
managed his diabetes, and they wouldn't let him walk at the facility. So every
Oh.
time he asked if he could go, they would say no.
Oh.
And my sisters and I all worked, so we would get there in the evenings, and by that time it was too late for him. So it,
Right.
it was very challenging.
Well, and I think that, and when we're looking at the holistic person, we ask that what are their likes? What are their dislikes? What did they do as their profession? There's a reason that the mailman that retired as a mailman gets up and gets dressed at 2 o'clock in the morning. It might not be that he's trying to exit seek. He's getting up to go to work, right? So
Exactly.
getting to know who they are as people and you know knowing that your father wanted to exercise, to be in an environment where he could fulfill that and not feel like he was trapped or confined is so important to meet everybody where they're at. Like you said, this is a four-time journey for you.
Mhm.
Hopefully there's not a fifth, but we learn everything from them, and it's not cookie cutter, is it?
No.
Yeah. Tell me a
No.
little bit about the different behaviors and what other people couldn't expect. What can people look for early on? I just got off with Senior Life. I will share this with you at another time, but we just did a podcast with Senior Life, and they're doing AI cognitive testing about 10 years prior to us being able to cognitively test if someone has dementia. through the gaze of someone's eyes. Yeah, so
Wow.
I will share that with you. And it's something that we have been working with them on a fall prevention app. By a 10-second video, we can see if someone's a fall risk. And by a 15-second video, like I said, just through the gaze of an eyes, we can help diagnose, short term memory loss 10 years earlier than we can clinically here in the US.
Wow.
Yeah. So just think of all the things that you could have done preventative, right? For brain health, for exercise, diet. Sometimes people will say, "Well, gosh, doesn't that scare people?" Whether it scares people or not, it gives you the power to make changes prior to that onset, right? Of that mental inability to be able to, do things on your own or do all of the things that you want to do.
Oh, it would have been so helpful. Okay, none of us is born knowing how to do dementia care, and we
Right.
had no clue how to do anything.
And now
And
you're an
if we would have
expert.
had a tool, oh my God.
Exactly. And now look at you now, Tracy. You're an expert in the disease of something that you would have never wanted to be an expert at, right? But just think of all the other people that you're helping because you went through the pitfalls or went through all of the things that you have learned to write into the book to be able to bless other people to know you don't have to go through these pitfalls. I did it for you. Tell me a few of those pitfalls that you may have learned that you wrote in your book that other people don't have to walk through that journey.
Oh, okay. Well, you alluded a little bit about the wandering if we take care
Yeah,
of whatever the root cause is, and it's
right.
if you don't know there's a root cause.
Yeah.
So, um, for my dad, this is I'm going to tell him myself here. Um, I assumed because when we got him out, we had a drug interaction check done. Every facility that he had been in prior to from the hospital to coming home with us added medication for behaviors because
Oh,
kept escaping. And he was very brilliant, and it was very easy for him to figure out these things and to get out. So he was on a mission. And what was happening is the drugs were interacting, and it was causing him to hallucinate and causing him to
oh,
have a lot of
of
other
course.
behavior issues that were
Interactions.
not his norm.
No.
And we could tell, but we couldn't get any help, and no one would believe us because uh, they were only seeing what they were seeing and not the original person that was there. So when we brought him home, we got him off of we took him to the his medication list to the pharmacy, and they did a drug interaction check, and we removed 22 of the 38 medications he was on.
Oh.
He bounced back like a plant on Miracle-Gro.
Mm.
So I trusted him to do certain things before a certain time of day. So in the morning, he could go on a walk by himself, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew he would not get lost. But we had days where we would have to go to like a medical appointment,
Mm-hmm.
and one day we were trying to get ready, and I was on the telephone because I was working from home. He went out to go do some stuff in the garden because he was getting bored. And by the time I got off the phone, I didn't know he had left. And so I went around the house trying to find him. And then I walked outside and trying to find him, and he was nowhere to be found.
Oh,
So I panicked. I
yes.
called 911. I live in a very small town. They told me they were too busy to help, and I needed to turn out my neighbors. And if we still couldn't find him, then to call back.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the one thing is, I couldn't remember what he was wearing. I couldn't even give a description of him.
Mm, mm.
And so I just completely panicked and shut down.
Right.
It turns out he was right next door helping somebody fix a problem at their home.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he was, but I didn't know that. And that was the last house I checked at when I was calling all my neighbors to find out where was he going. So I needed to know, okay, I had to keep track of what he was wearing if my mind went blank, because when
Right.
you're in that panic moment,
Yeah.
you
You're not
do not
together.
think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So that kind of became a daily awareness, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah, we ended up taking daily photos, and I had to work it into
Mm-hmm.
a routine because my dad wasn't necessarily a camera hound at that
Right.
point.
Right. Or wanting his picture taken. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what we
Mm-hmm.
did is I took part of this from Jolene Brackey's really great book, Creating Moments of Joy Along the Alzheimer's Journey.
Uh-huh.
I took a box, filled it full of his favorite clothes because we were constantly losing stuff.
Right.
So I made sure I bought multiple copies, and then I would have him wrap a box with wrapping paper for a gift for a friend of mine.
Oh my
And actually, what
gosh.
was inside was a card that were written by family members and friends that they were thinking of him, that they got him this clothing and they wanted a picture of him since they weren't there so they could see if he liked it. And what ended up
Oh.
happening is every time my husband was out of town, I would do this with my dad, and he would be excited to wrap the present because then he had something to
Yeah.
do. And then when he was done, I would thank him while I was cooking dinner. I'd stick it up on top of the refrigerator. And then the next morning, he would completely
Forget.
forget it was there.
Right, right.
We'd have
Fun again.
breakfast. I'd excuse myself to the
Yeah.
bathroom and I'd grab the package and I'd stick it on his pillow. And so after breakfast, he'd
Oh.
go in to get his coat, and there was this package. He was so excited. He'd call for me to come down and we'd open it
Oh.
together. He'd
Oh.
read the card.
I love
And
it.
this is the beauty of this. He
Yes.
would get excited. He'd want to go get cleaned up. He'd run down the hall and take a bath or a shower, depending on how he was
Put on the
feeling,
new clothes.
put on the new clothes and
Uh,
come back and pose for the picture. So I've got these great
oh.
pictures of him posing with all these crazy things that we were doing, hats, clothes, whatever it was. And then I also was able to do laundry.
Yes. And
And
get him to change.
on,
Yeah.
yeah, and on those days, he would be so excited. We would have a
Oh.
great behavior day, and the sundowning would be barely noticeable.
Oh. How creative. I love that. And just meeting them where they're at, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. And so many creative ways to get them to be participating, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's folding laundry over and over again or wrapping his own present and being thrilled to get it. I love that. My son was in high school, and he broke his ankle. And every day he'd come out of his bedroom and Grandpa would say, "Oh, you broke your ankle." Every day was a new, ankle. I've also had caregivers that were pregnant and that were providers, at adult family homes. And the magic that somebody with memory loss every day would be so thrilled about their pregnancy. Oh my gosh, you're going to have a baby. And she said she'd hear that every day and she never got tired of it. I love that. So, you just kind of meet them where they are at and they bring such joy. I just love that. So, share a little bit about your distracting techniques and nursery
Ah,
rhymes. The warm blanket, I will have to tell you, I used that for many years to get him to go to bed. And
did you really?
yes, once we would put that warm blanket in the dryer and bring it back, and then of course just tuck it. And every night he'd say, "How do you know how I like that?" Because he'd want the blanket way up to his neck. But I would just say, "Oh, you would tell me how you like it," so I just know. But that warm blanket, boy, that really helped us get him to bed and get him settled. So I would love to know how that worked with you, and also any other distraction techniques that helped you.
Oh, yeah, my favorite one ended up being the memory book
Mm.
because it was a three for us. What I ended up doing is I put his pictures from the age of 5 up until the current age he was when he was living with us, and I created it's like a scrapbook. So I
Yeah.
I told his story. I showed him where he worked, places he'd lived, organizations and things, and even his bowling league and anything I
Ah,
could find that went in there, favorite pets. Um,
memories. Yeah.
and with that, we had one night where he was panicked because my husband was traveling. It was just him and me at home, and he was getting upset. He said, "Yeah, I have to go home. I have to go home. I have to go home." And now we bought the family home. So he
Okay.
was in the
He's
family
already
home, but
home.
he kept saying he had to go home. And so it finally dawned on me, okay, I handed him his memory book and I asked him, okay, and so I'm trying to redirect him. I go, can you show me, can you pick yourself out in any of these pictures? And he picked himself out in high school. And it dawned on me in that moment, his mom was so
That's
strict
wow.
and that he was worried about getting in trouble because
Getting
it was
home.
dark
Yeah.
outside
He had to get
and
home.
he had to get home. And so I
Oh.
was going, oh, and his name was Eldon. I go, Eldon, your mom called and she said it's too dark for you to walk home and she wants you to
Just
stay
stay
home or
here.
stay here
Oh.
and spend the night and she'll pick
Oh.
him up in the morning.
Oh.
And he just relaxed. He was so
Yeah.
happy and then he knew it was safe and we
Oh.
had just a great evening.
Isn't that great? And incorporated his mom and that it's okay,
Yeah.
and gave him the permission to just be. I just
Hmm.
love that. And meeting them where they're at, right?
Exactly.
I just love that. Love those stories. Just so great. I can't remember the person that shared this originally, so you'll have to forgive me, but I do want to share this. There was a lady, and she wouldn't come out of her room in a memory care, and all they knew is that she was Christian, and the caregivers didn't know a lot of Christian songs, but they would sing Amazing Grace. And every day they'd say, "Gosh, we sing Amazing Grace, and we just can't get her out of our room." And they said, "Well, Amazing Grace for a lot of people were sung at funerals. So maybe we should try You Are My Sunshine." And so they said, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." And she took her hand and came right out of that room and walked down the hallway. And I never will forget that. And, that's just a lesson to us to meet people where they're at, right? I
Truly,
love that. I
truly.
love that. So, on your own experiences, I love that you are also a volunteer at a hardware store to teach people how to keep their houses safe. Tell me a little bit about that.
During the entire time I was taking care of my family, I wish there was a section in the hardware store that I could go to
Right.
and they could say, you need this
Yeah.
for this
For safe,
particular thing.
safety. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. And so, whether it was a grab bar or a raised toilet seat with handles, whatever it was, and there wasn't one.
Oh,
And it was several years later, Home Depot came out with the senior living section, but it's not the same.
yes.
It's not dementia related. And so
Right.
I talked to my local hardware store and I brought a copy of my book in. And I showed it to them so they know I wasn't making this
You
up. And I
right,
was
right, exactly.
asking, can I speak to your people that come in and just help them? And
Yeah.
they said yes. And so we have helped over 400 families now. It
Oh,
has been such a joyous feeling for me.
yes.
People come in now from all over the South Puget Sound. They're driving to it's at the Ace Hardware in Gig Harbor. I'm there at the second and fourth Friday and Saturdays of the month, from noon to 3. People just come in and bring their questions. Sometimes we do a little demo. Sometimes I demonstrate how colors can be helpful, what
Mm-hmm.
colors to use, what colors not
Not
to
to
use.
use, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and black is a big one. People just don't
That
understand that
hole.
it looks like a hole.
Yeah, don't
Exactly.
step down, don't step down.
And I learned that
Oh,
the hard way because I was
yeah.
just tired of mud being tracked into the house in
Right.
the wintertime.
How come
And
you're
I
not going
put
out the
a,
door? How come you won't step over that? It's a big
yeah,
hole.
my dad told me it's a hole. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
isn't that amazing how they can share with us and how we can reflect to other people?
yeah,
I just love that. And I love how you're giving back to the community to be able to better assist their loved ones in their environments and make it safe. We tell people, take care of your people at home as long as possible, but when they no longer are safe, that's when you really have to talk about a transition.
yeah.
So I think that's so important. If you were to give someone 2 tips about aging parents, whether, and let's just say that they have some cognitive issues, they're living alone, they don't have the supportive daughter to take care of them, what kind of tips would you give them to be proactive in this journey?
That is a really good question, Mary. I I think the first thing is to know your person and to understand what their needs are.
Yeah.
A lot of us go with preconceived notions about what our parents need because we remember them from the time we were living with them, and we don't allow ourselves to let them age in our head. And so I know the biggest thing for me was having that transition to go from being a child to a peer with my parent and then being their
A
caregiver.
caregiver.
And I think
Yeah.
one of the things is also giving yourself permission to listen,
Yeah.
because a lot of times we
Yes.
just have preconceived notions of what's going on, and we try to force them into whatever we think is best for them, and they don't want to be the parent under the stairs.
Yes.
And we have a hard time with that because it's like, but I know this is the right thing for you. This will
Right?
be perfect for you, and no, you're now the parent under the stairs. So
Exactly. I love that. That is so important.
yeah,
And listening, listen to what
mhm.
they want. Let them be part of the solution. And I think there's things that a lot of adult children will say, my parents would never want that. You know, we might be remembering our parents from 40 years ago. I know my father lost a leg and was in fear of losing his second leg, but he was totally alert and oriented. It was diabetes. But when I describe my father, I, describe him as a strong man, military, with two legs. So you're absolutely right. We see our parents as these victorious, wonderful human beings and don't see them in the aging journey that they're in. So we couldn't know what they perhaps um, want, but we know what they need, right? And I
Mhm.
often tell people that when they're no longer able to make good decisions, we have to make decisions for them, not always with them.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And I just love that. I love your passion that came from taking care of four people, and that you're sharing this with other people to walk this journey a little bit easier than you had to walk it. Because I'm sure there was pitfalls, right? And
Oh,
obstacles
yes.
and long nights and all of that. Do you have family members as well that were helping?
Yes, I did not do this alone. My sisters helped me. My aunt helped me as far as until she had dementia. I mean, it wasn't a journey I walked alone, although there were times when I
You
was
felt
by
alone.
myself
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and having to deal with the hallucination of the moment.
Right,
So,
right.
but I had a lot of support around me, and for that I am very, very grateful because most people do not have that. When you meet somebody that's been married for 56 years and they're taking care of their wife or their husband
Yeah,
and their kids are gone or they don't
yeah,
have kids,
right.
they are alone and
They
they're
are
so
alone.
isolated.
Yeah,
And it's trying to get them the support that they need because most people are
absolutely.
also afraid of going to support groups because they don't
Yes,
understand the benefits.
yes. And they don't understand that everyone's walking that same journey, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't know my life. Well, unfortunately, I do, right? Boy, this is such a hard disease. And fortunately, it's not usually hard for the person that has it,
Mhm.
right? It's for the journey of the people that are taking care of them. And may we all know, if anyone's listening to this Senior Spotlight number 20 with Tracy Cram Perkins, really important to look at her book, Dementia Home Care. Look it up. She went through a lot of pitfalls, so you don't have to. And we're so grateful to have you on the show tonight, Tracy. Thank you so much for coming to the Senior Spotlight.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for having me on, and it's been a great pleasure speaking with you.
You as well. Take care. Thanks for all the blessings you're giving to all the people in Gig Harbor. Love that.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye bye.